And last but not least.
Hope I'm not least. So while he's figuring out how to open up the slide, I'll just say hello.
Oh, no.
It's right there. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
I'll just repair it. It was done with OpenOffice. It hates you. Yeah. Excellent. And then, hidden things might not work.
Yes.
That's fine. Yeah. Ta-da. Well, that didn't work. Why is it not making the magic button?
Same problem as we had before.
Yeah, but I didn't bring a second person. Okay. Well, I'll fake it this way.
Wait, because no, it's not gone. But
Yeah, try it. We can do it this way.
I think you will have to keep it this way. You can make it in presentation.
Okay. Well, Here. So now you see my hidden slides as well, and I can't use that. So anyhow, for those of you who don't know me, Pete Peterson, I identify as a research software engineer. If you don't know what that is, look it up on the internet, just on the right sites. You probably mostly identify one of those once you look at what the role means. I also want to say thank you, Andy, for challenging us on the beginning. I'm going to attempt to make this as engaging and provocative as a TED Talk. Forgive me when I fail. So thank you, Colin. No, it's not going to work at all. Oh, no. How do we do that? Okay, so pretend I'm going to look at that slide. You also get the preview of what comes next. So, Colin, you did a beautiful job of introducing what I want to talk about, which is these are preferred practices. I do not work towards best practices because best practices take me too long, take my group too long, and we just can't do them. So we make some decisions, you make some value calls, and this is what you do. Colin had his preferences, I had my preferences, I argue with my team over our preferences, and we come up with some common theme that we want to do with each other and work through. So pretend that that was a slide advancement right there. Can I make that wider, I wonder? Oh, I bet we can. There. No! Oh, this is only go to hell. Oh, this is awesome. Yeah. Oh.
Let's try. Keep going. I'll try to download it again from the...
Oh, it's not going to work. It's going to be doomed. No.
LibreOffice opens just nice.
Yeah, I know. See? It works with LibreOffice. Is OpenOffice an option? Anyhow, the first point that I was going to make is, I can only remember one more slide because that's where I was. Is that the first value decision you have to make is what open source license you take. I know there's reasons to have things closed source. There's reasons to have data closed source. Oh, why did I not test it more places? There's reasons to have data closed source, but generally speaking, what you're doing is going to be open source to be shared with the community, for the community to push back with changes to, report information to. That being said, open source is not enough. I've said this at previous NoBugs. Having your stuff with a permissive license on a university subversion server doesn't count. It has to be someplace out in the public where it's findable and people can report information back. Oh. Don't repair. I'm right there. Yeah, so I'm right there. I'll make it work. I'll make it work. People use their imagination. I'll use my imagination. Oh, yay! It's not going to go to the next slide. Personally, I like the MIT license because I know I have lawyers, but I never want to sick them on anyone. You guys are my friends. This is gonna not work. Anyhow, the second decision we made, I'm not going to expand the size because it's going to go awry. The second decision that we made is we're going to contribute everything. Do you have a PDF that you can ship to me? Okay, cool. The second decision that we made is that we're making a GitHub. Well, it's going to work out in just a sec. is that we have a GitHub template. The things you're going to notice in that is, one, is GitHub is not GitLab. That's just where we like to put our stuff. It's a template. It's not something else. Oh, you're not going to be able to read it. So in here, use your imagination that that's a configuration page in GitHub. In that configuration page, you can go into the repository settings. You just tick a little box where you can't read the text, and you say, this is a template repository. What that does for you is when you create a new repository in your organization, you automatically get to choose any template repository you have, and we'll copy that in. That's your starting point. Makes your life much, much easier. Oh, this is going to be gorgeous. Now, for those of you who are playing at home or listened to Colin earlier, the alternative is this thing called cookie cutter. This could be broken too. Yeah, well, there it is. I just double click. Oh. So now you don't have to use your imagination anymore. It looks like that. And for those of you who are noticing, our GitHub organization is neutrons. This is letting you know that you should be fast when you name your things and steal it from everybody else before they get your awesome name. Cookie Cutter does the exact same thing, not really at all. Cookie Cutter is a templating engine where you give it some parameters and we'll spit out information for you. We prefer not to do that because we don't do so much of new repositories. We want to have something simple, runnable, buildable, inspectable, where you don't have to look at curly braces and stuff. So I'm sure you're interested in what our actual value is, so we'll talk to you about the contents. The first one is actually not the contents, but it permeates everything. The Open Source Security Foundation has an open source software best practices badge. If you don't have one of these, please go look at what the list is. It's actually a very good list of stuff you should do to be a good open source citizen. A lot of stuff you do anyhow. The basics, you have a name, you have a website. Change control, use RCS, I don't care, but use something. It doesn't matter, pick something. You should have a way for people to report vulnerabilities and bugs. Believe it or not, you do have vulnerabilities, especially if you have web-facing stuff. And if you don't think you do, you should check it out. Quality, you do things like you have quality metrics, there's automatic scanning tools for that sort of thing. Their security section is kind of short, kind of long. Number one on the security item, or on the security list, is they point you at a free Linux Foundation course that takes something like 8 hours to complete. You get a certificate, but it's a free course on what you do for security. What should your stuff do if somebody hits you with a DDoS? How do you not accidentally violate EU law for 5 years? Never mind. Where should you actually do parameter scanning? Do you do it on the front end or you do it on the back end? Because if you do it on the front end, you're making it nice for users. If you do it on the back end, people who just call your code with an API don't mess you up. Oh yeah, you forgot about that. And then there's static and dynamic analysis. Static analysis is the normal stuff you think of, like linting, rough, that sort of thing. Dynamic analysis is these fuzzers, where they're input fuzzing on you. So just to show off how we do our static analysis is actually with pre-commit. If you don't know pre-commit, is a Python thing that fits into the Git pre-commit or commit hooks framework. You don't have to use Python code to use it, but it runs within Python. You fill out, there's some built-ins like here, don't add files that are bigger than 8 megs, reasonable limit. Make sure that somebody who didn't know what they were doing with a merge conflict didn't actually commit something that was a merge conflict. YAML fixer, end of file, white space, and then we have rough, does great things. The other nice thing about pre-commit on GitHub is you can actually just register with them, and as long as your pre-commit checks run in less than 2 minutes, they're just a build job. And even better, if that pre-commit hook reformats your code with like rough or end of file fixer, the bot will actually commit to your PR. So you can see, oh, look, I should have gone a bit. Thank you, bot. I really appreciate it. You saved me time. The other part here, and this is kind of the longest slide, sorry about that, is a directory layout. So for Python things, you have to have some discussion of where you want to put things, what your favorite names are, how do you do things. And this is where it really rubber meets the road as far as I have a functional thing. So you'll see here I have workflows for GitHub on how I build Python wheels, conda packages. You'll see I have the packaging information in meta.yaml for conda. I'll have packaging information in pyproject.toml. Thank you, Python, for changing everything painfully slow over 5 years. We have examples of having documentation. We have pushes out to read the docs, pushes out to code cov, where you put your unit tests, how you write a unit test. The only unit test we have, by the way, is test that there's a version. That's not a good test. It's a terrible test, but it shows people put in tests in this directory every time. Okay, so I'm still in stoppage time. Awesome. So that's kind of what the Python project template is. You can use it, don't use it, but this is how we use it. So first of all, we use it for modernization and documenting things. You may not believe it to look at me, but I'm a code necromancer. People hand me stuff written by a researcher 10 years ago, but it's vital for their science, and we need to run it on RHEL 9. Never happened to anybody else, I know. But we use this as a reference point for how do we move forward the code to something modern. We use it as something where we can have value discussions. So if somebody says, oh, did you see you can actually have I just recently discovered Dependabot. We'll actually update your commit, your GitHub Actions. I put in there, we see how it works, we can actually play with it, see what it does, and then everybody says, okay, when I touch another project that we're already working on, let's bring it up to spec. That's very useful. But the other place that we use it is we point our domain scientists at it. They write awful code, just like apparently a third of the room says they're writing Python code at the beta level, whatever that means. But a lot of them actually want to write better code. Give them something that's easy to stare at, easy to digest, and they will slowly move forward. Maybe you have to do some steps for them, but they'll do that. And then despite technology issues, I'm actually at my last slide. See, we're back in time. Yeah. This was actually all misdirection. So if you want to look at the project, please do. But what I really want you to do is go home, talk to your team, and say, what do we value? How do we want to enshrine our values in something that we can reference that's easy to digest so we can keep all of our projects in lockstep? I don't think anybody really has just like one software that they're working with. They're having a family of things that they have to resolve out. And this isn't what we do for everything, but it's what we're striving to do with things. Okay, that's it.
Wow. That's timing, Pete. And thanks for the last slide, just as a closing of a very good conference. So please, questions to Pete.
We're done. Here, toss him the mic.
Thanks for the insight on good practices. How much of Oak Ridge goes down if GitHub is not reachable?
So for some of our critical stuff, we just have local mirrors on a local GitHub, on a local, actually, GitLab instance.
Okay, so the critical stuff.
Well, so remember, it gets distributed, so it doesn't really matter. Nah, you know, it just means you can't update. So someone who has an urgent fix right now, which the other 3/4 of people don't want us to install, we can't install. That's not a big deal.
Given what you know now about the process you went through, what would you say was the single action that had the biggest impact in moving stuff in the right direction from the stuff you described in your presentation?
So, the biggest one. So the one that causes a lot of conflict, especially when I've tried to get domain scientists to do it, is actually auto-formatting code. I know, I'm suspicious you know, where the curly braces goes doesn't matter in the slightest. But there's people who are very passionate about, they spent years with this curly brace pattern. But the rest of the things that happen in pre-commit, as far as the static analysis and getting that running faster, that makes it that I don't even like kick off build jobs if there's static analysis issues. And the more stuff I can push down into that layer that happens before I can commit, the less energy I'm using of build servers and chasing down those things.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other question? So if not, let's thank Pete again.